Call to order, regular meeting, Warren City Council, Tuesday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
President Green.
Here.
Councilman Watts.
Here.
Councilman Lafferty.
Here.
Councilman Kabazinski.
Present.
Councilwoman Rogancy.
Here.
Councilman Papandrea.
Here.
Councilwoman Moore is present. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 4, adoption of the consent agenda. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy.
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea.
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore.
Yes, I'd like to add as 13B under council business, an update in regard to the federal lawsuit, Fouts versus City Council et al.
Are you good with that addition?
Without objection.
Any others? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
6A, calendar of pending matters. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is 6B, discussion in-ray resident or neighborhood concerns.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts.
why are you guys all looking at me? So,
You're in a good mood.
I received a call, 24602 Barry, Cross of Alberta. There's a white Saturn SUV that's been parked there for over a year, hasn't moved. I'd like to get somebody to take a look at that. I don't have the address. There's a rental home there that needs inspection, and apparently the inspectors never showed up. And I'm told they're preparing to rent the home, and the neighbors are concerned about what's going on. I'll get the address and forward that. The other thing is Wellington, north of 9 Mile. There's been some complaints over there about long grass that hasn't been taken care of, and hopefully they can take a look at that.
Thank you. Any additional?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kabazinski.
having to do with 8671, which was the sinkhole.
Yes.
That was taken care of this week by Water Department. They were out there today. They got it completed, along with the easement on 8678 Hudson. So they were out this morning early and they took care of the problem.
Thank you.
So thank you to the Water Department.
Thank you for the update. Any additional? For either rental or property maintenance, there's a house on Ryan Road north of Dawson that appears to, it's tagged, and it appears that it's, there was an eviction. There's garbage bags that have been torn open and debris all over the boulevard, all over Ryan Road this morning where cars had to drive around it. So if someone could go out there and clean it up and bill the landlord, that'd be great. Is there a motion to send all these items over to the
I
administration?
have one more.
Oh, Ms. Moore, go ahead.
Yeah, I did get some odor complaints this week from some residents in the 9 Mile and Hoover area. I hope that our department is looking into those because there are a lot of complaints. Maybe they need to change the filters again. Thank you.
Any additional?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kabazinski,
Ms. Moore just reminded me of one.
go ahead.
This was at Topher and Hoover. Late Saturday night into Sunday morning, the cold heading plant had a water flow alarm that went off. The fire alarm went off all night. I got complaints from people that live along Marmon Street, which is directly in back of cold heading, and it went off like that for 24 hours straight, and nobody took care of it. I did contact Commissioner McAdams. Per the state laws, the key holder is supposed to respond with a certain amount of time. They're not supposed to leave it like that. And evidently they didn't. So hopefully Commissioner McAdams or the police department will be citing cold heading for that. But there were plenty of complaints from residents there.
Is that on Groesbeck?
No, this is on Hoover and Topher.
Hoover.
In that area. So Marmon is right behind cold heading plant. And there were a lot of children, evidently, that were crying because they couldn't get to sleep because of the klaxon that was going off constantly all day, all night, and it didn't get taken care of until Monday morning when they got in. So Hopefully, they can get properly cited for that, because, again, I guess it's against state law to have it like that
Yeah.
and not respond and not take care of it.
Well, it begs the question of why do you have an alarm if you're not going to respond to it?
Exactly, and the fire department went out there twice and verified that there was no visible fire, but they can't do anything about a water flow alarm. I mean, that's not
Right.
something that they take care of, but it's just the whole idea that the residents had to deal with this for 24 hours straight, and they couldn't get any peace or
Any
comfort
relief.
in the neighborhood. So I wanted to bring up that concern as well. Thank you.
Is there a motion and support to send this over to the administration?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 15, 2023. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item is 7B, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of August 15, 2023. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is 8A, approval of the bills of the General Revenue Fund. So moved.
Support with discussion.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
I'd like to ask a question of the administration on check number 657811 to Michigan.com advertisement for $3,858.50. This is in regards to the reports that might be available from this service to indicate what kind of leads we're getting. You might recall I questioned our policy relative to where are we advertising for jobs? Are we following best practices? Are we looking for, the best advertisers out there? Are we looking at the most modern ways of communicating with the types of individuals that we're seeking expertise from? And I questioned Michigan.com before. I'm going to continue to question it, and I would like a report on metrics and quality leads that we've received from this service over the last 12 months.
So you want to question that, or you want to table it?
I do want to question it. I don't want to table it. I don't want to interfere with the payment.
Okay. Any additional? I'm going to call the bills with the amendment to ask the question on check number 657811. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 8B, approval of the bills of the water and sewer system. So moved.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Audience.
Members of the audience who'd like to address council this evening may do so under the audience portion. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. When there's 1 minute left, I'll tell you, and when you hit 3 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up. The first speaker is Greg Donahoe.
Good evening. Specifically dealing with item 13A, a proposed ordinance for consideration and adoption of a resolution to allow recreational marijuana in the city. There is no basis for this to be placed on the agenda at this time. I'm not questioning you placing it on the agenda, Ms. Moore. I'm rather questioning Mr. Papandrea for introducing it at this time. Had this council wanted to address it, it's had nearly 4 years to do so. The excuse that I've been given when I've asked for action of the opposite, to opt out, has been that there's ongoing litigation. And the response that I've received is that pending this litigation, no action could be taken. I don't see why this is any different. Further, as this is an ordinance which would affect the quality of life or potentially change the character of the city, the proper way to develop it is to have public comment on it, receive public input, actually have meetings that are well publicized and scheduled, understand if the citizens truly want this. There's been no outreach by any member of this council in this regard during this term to even ascertain that. Further, this would allow 23 facilities in the city. Is that the right number? How do you know without public input or research? It's a very sloppily written ordinance. If the date stamp on it is to be believed, it was written a year ago and hasn't been updated since. So where's it been sitting for a year? for this time after a primary election, ahead of a general election, when this council, potentially, some members are in its waning days, is not the time to bring this up, something that requires thoughtful dialogue to do it appropriately. The last council made a grievous error in the way they handled marijuana that has mired this city in litigation and cost the taxpayers a great amount of money. Doing this in such a slipshod, haphazard manner will only result in more litigation with the city and result in it wrong. My position on this is known, but just because I'm against it, no matter who's for, if you're for this, you should still want a thoughtful one. So I urge every member of council to table this ordinance, don't consider it again, and if this is something that's wanted, begin the process of a thoughtful dialogue with the citizens to have this. So if one is crafted, if the people genuinely do want it, it's an ordinance that works in the best interests of the city, ensures children aren't exposed to it, and ensures something that we can have faith that the political process worked as it should. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Holowati?
Good evening, Council. First of all, I wanted to say that I meant to come here last week, but due to illness in the family, I wasn't able to. So this is what I was going to address the Council this evening. First off, I want to congratulate the Council members that made it past the primary, especially Mr. Watts, Mr. Lafferty, Ms. Moore, and Ms. Arrogancies. I would like to let you know that you have my continued support in the general election in November. Secondly, I would like to continue to support our council president, Pat Green, even though he did not get enough votes past the primary. I think, sir, you got the short end of the stick. People think you didn't run a good and organized meeting. I have watched the meetings from start to finish for the past 4 years from home. I think you ran excellent meetings against overwhelming odds. I was a Grand Knight for a Knights of Columbus Council here in Warren, Michigan for 5 years. Even though I didn't run the council the way past Grand Knights did not run them, the council still supported me. I feel this didn't happen to you just because you supported many of the things that our Mayor Faust wanted to be passed. Since unfortunately you weren't able to run in the general election, I am throwing my support behind Lori Stone as our new mayor of Warren. I encourage my fellow Warren citizens to do the proper research and watch the council meetings from start to finish. Just don't leave in the middle. Watch, you'll get a lot of education while watching the entire meeting. Vote for the people running for office in November and vote with your brain and not just with your hearts. And not for people who are they affiliated with or endorsed by.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you, sir. And vote for your hearts and best suit. Last thing, I just would, with Ukraine Independence Day coming up this Sunday, I would appreciate all your support of Ukraine, even though right now they are fighting still for their own existence. Thank you.
Thank you. William Williams.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, everybody in the audience. My name is William Williams. I'm a resident of the city of Warren. Been here for 13 years now. I moved to Warren from Detroit, rented a house on Bush for about 3 years, and I was so impressed with the city, I decided to buy a home here in Warren in the Hoover Masonic area. And I thought I would become more involved in the cities, what's going on in the city, because I'm a retired vice president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 26 and 1564. We represent the transit workers in southeastern Michigan. And I was truly impressed when I moved to Warren, and I'm just going to be rigorously honest with you. The way I grew up and what I knew about Warren as a young man, it was a place that probably wasn't too inclusive for me. So I thought. I I guess I listened to what people said and some things that happened in history, but when I moved here, the love and the fellowship that I found in the neighborhoods in Warren here is just impeccable. You know, I can't, you know, I brag about Warren all the time, and I'm a lifetime Detroiter. If you cut me, little D's will still pull up. But I'm a Warren resident now. I tell a story about one time I had a tree in front of my yard. It was dropping branches, and it was dangerous. So I got on the phone and I called into the city, to the mayor's office, told him I had this tree. So the lady who answered the phone said, yeah, well, okay, we'll take that down and we'll have somebody get with you. I'm like, yeah, I heard that before. So one day, my wife and I, must have been about 3 or 4 days later, my wife and I pulled up to the house.
1 minute.
And something was different. The tree was gone. It swept it up and dug up the stump. I'm saying this to say I was impressed by the city services. But one of the reasons I want to show up today is that I became a little bit disillusioned with the fighting that I seen internally. I know that, you know, being the vice president of a union, that if I get elected and my friend doesn't get elected, it still becomes my job to make it work. I have to support that. And the things I've seen over the last couple of years just hasn't been really good. I know you can tear a house down from internal. So I'm imploring the council and the mayor, you know, the thing with the mayor not being able to run and spending all this money on, you know, lawyers for the mayor and lawyers for the council. Well, all that money comes from the citizens of Warren. And for me, it wasn't a good look. So I would hope in the future we can move forward and we can work in harmony. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Stephen Krakowski.
Good evening, Council. This first is on Ryan Road, the reconstruction from 9 Mile to 10 Mile. Did a beautiful job. We appreciate all the money that was set forth and to repair this road is badly in need, and that they will continue further up north toward 10 Mile and 11 Mile. And also, I didn't get a chance to write down, a little nervous with continuing on the talk of Mayor Fout's accomplishments. Since Mayor Fouts took office, City of Warren, he's seen major progress and reached out some incredible milestones under his leadership. Mayor Fouts has followed through on many of his key campaigns, promises, and is focused on multiple key areas, including economic development, education, civic innovation, reduction in crime, and sustainability. First off, he returned city-operated EMS transport, resulting in $1.5 million in revenues. Secondly, cost-saving programs in sanitation, building, maintenance, DPW departments. Eliminated city-paid cell phones, car allowances for all mayoral appointees, open door policy for public in the mayor's office, which I've been here for 33 years and I was never aware of that. Created student advisory committees, 7 successful college fairs. And the main thing right now for Mayor Fouts is he's working on having the new town center constructed.
1 minute.
Which would be a tremendous perk for all Warren residents. 12 years in office, mayoral portrait dedication ceremony, neighborhood cleanup sweeps, establish anti-blight hotline, which helped me and my neighborhood and various neighborhoods. I live at the 9 Mile and Ryan area. Demolition of dilapidated buildings, houses that were on fire, and red tagged. Innovative crime-fighting programs, new and innovative crime-fighting programs, including Police Academy. zero tolerance, drug policy, cost-saving initiatives, anti-blight initiatives, special ceremonies to honor our veterans, which I am one. Cost-saving initiatives, save $30,000 by not using personal driver, eliminating new vehicles for mayor, reduced number of city employees, 27% without any layoffs.
If you could wrap up, please, that's 3 minutes.
Pardon me, sir?
If you could wrap up, that's been 3 minutes.
3 minutes is over?
Yes.
Could I just have 2 more minutes, sir?
No. Everybody gets the same amount.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethan Vinson?
For the record, I'm Ethan Vinson. I'm the city attorney, and I wanted to talk about an item that was on the agenda last week that was passed, and I think will be set for a committee of the whole. And that was item 12E, which related to licensing of rental dwellings. And comments were made, I believe, based upon the advice of council's retained attorney, that there is no need for it. And I beg to differ. If you take a look at chapter 17 of the municipal ordinances, in my view, that is the licensing ordinance. It states what must be done in order to obtain a license. Now, as part of that procedure, there is an inspection of the hotel or motel. But it doesn't give the city the authority to go back and do any subsequent inspections in the case of a complaint against that particular. And this is something that is needed. The building department supports the proposed ordinance 100%. And I look forward to having the committee of the whole, and we can get the building officials together and have them express their desire to have such an ordinance.
Thank you. Fred Neenstedt?
Good evening, council. My name is Fred Neenstedt, live in Clinton Township. And I want to make a comment about the recent election. When the city council sees that the Warren Election Commission failed to have a hearing on citizen complaints, it means that you're complicit with it. Am I right? You agree that the Warren Election Commission should not have heard citizen complaints. Now, I've been talking about election fraud for a few years now. And I was called an election fraud denier, right? Or an election denier. I said that this was untrue. I maintained that the 2020 election had election fraud. Now, it has become public knowledge that that fraud did exist. 500 precincts were examined forensically in Detroit and were found to be incredibly mismanaged in counting the ballots and managing those ballots. Across the state in Muskegon, 8,000 fraudulent applications for voters. That's almost 25% of the city's voting population. It was a fraud. What has happened in Warren is a fraud. A fraud has been perpetrated upon the people of the city of Warren, and I don't hear anything from the city council. Because he has personally taken on the challenge that you should all have taken on. You're anxious to sue the mayor. You're anxious to sue almost anybody, but you're not going to sue the clerk. Why are you not suing the clerk?
1 minute.
Do you know? She put her personal preference ahead of her professional duty to hold a hearing to hear the complaints of the citizens of Warren. Eddie Kabasinski filed several complaints, and none of them were heard. His due process rights were defrauded him by the city clerk, the Warren Election Commission, and anyone else who is complicit. Your silence is complicit with this fraud. You're not standing up for the people of Warren. You're not standing up for the people of the District 5. Now, there will be no one representing Warren south of 696. That's on the next council.
3 minutes.
May God bless all of you, please.
Thank you. Erica Januzek.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Erica Janusek. I live in Warren. My roots are really deep here. I've worked in Warren pretty much my whole life, and maybe some of you have seen me at Frenzy's Restaurant. And I now work at Rocket Enterprise, which sells flags and flagpoles. And we, sell to the city of Warren even. And so your USA flags come from us. I come here as the vice president of the Motor City Corral. And our group I myself reached out to Mayor Fouts looking to share some information about our group in hopes we can encourage community members to sing with us or at least come to see us as we put on free concerts. He responded to me because I asked specifically about the Newsbeat, which has the potential to reach approximately 137,000 Warren residents and 54,500 households. However, it is no longer being funded through print distribution. So to talk a little bit about our group, we are a 501(c)(3). It was founded in 1933 as the General Motors Chorus, a GM-sponsored employee activity limited just to the employees and retirees. In 1978, they opened it up to the community, and in the summer of 2014, we changed the name to the Motor City Corral. We welcome adult members in the Metro Detroit area who love to sing. There's no audition required, and you don't even have to read music. We practice at Lincoln High School in Warren, and the choir director is a former teacher from Lincoln High School itself. I myself, as well as an alumna of Lincoln High School class of 01. So our venues are local churches, senior communities, and veterans organizations. Like I said, most concerts are free. We do a joint concert with the Warren Concert Band. That one does have an admission fee. But we wanted to reach out, essentially, to the community and let us know about us. We've been around a long time. And we have been looking for opportunities to tell them about us, as well as let them know that we do give back to the community. That's ideally what we're about. We have donated school supplies. We have a music scholarship for vocal students, Lincoln High School, replenish food banks at our church venues, and donate clothing to Salvation Army. So in the Motor City Corral this year, our goal was to look at ways to reach out to the community that wasn't just via the internet or social media. In advocating for a printed version of this Newsbeat, I wanted to express the value of a print version that an online version doesn't. It's a personal touch. Bring something to someone's doorstep so they can open it up and read about the activities that are going on in the city of Warren. And if we can do a budget increase for ballots, for absentee ballots, and the postage for that, why can't we put back a 1% of the savings that you guys worked really hard to do and bring that back with the Newsbeat?
3 minutes.
3 minutes already? Darn. Okay, well, essentially, I just wanted to say that, again, 1% of the total budget savings, and the cost is less than 2 stamps per household. So I just hope you consider it.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening.
Curtis Oshkosh.
Good evening, Council. Just a few things that I wanted to tell you. Curtis Ostosh, resident and pastor here in the city. Last week, General Motors was kind, and they sent 25 volunteers to help us with our food ministry. That was a wonderful thing that they did, their General Motors Cares program. It's good to see that there's people out there that actually do care. The mayor also gave us a mayoral proclamation for the good work that we do in our city. That was very kind of him. Didn't ask for it, didn't solicit it, but it came. It says that we've been here for 30-plus years, which is accurate. There's a member of our community that says our church has only been around for 8, so the mayor got it right. That person doesn't get it right. But the other thing is, when I posted the mayoral proclamation on the Warren political page, a number of people thought it was funny. I don't know what's funny about feeding needy people, helping those that are food insecure. I don't know what's funny about meeting the needs of the homeless community right here in Warren. I don't think it's funny at all, but Jeff Schroeder thought it was funny. Lori Arts thought it was funny. Joe Munum thought it was funny. Mark List thought it was funny. Tony Baker thought it was funny. Vicky Weibo Uhace, she thought it was funny. What's so funny for consecutively helping poor people in our community for more than 30 years? Next year will be our 32nd anniversary, by the way. And since Mindy Moore and Mr. Schroeder have such an affinity with the Grinch, I have some music for you today, since that seems to be popular with the Jay Giles thing. You're a mean one, Mr. Schroeder. You have rocks that are in your heart. Your compassion is on bankrupt. There's evil in your blood. You care less for the needy. You even mock those that do good. Mr. Schroeder, you're simply a mean and heartless tool, along with these other people that think it's funny for helping those who are the less fortunate in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave S. Dave S.
Good evening, Council. That was a nice little entertainment there to break up the routine here. I'm not totally prepared. I'm a cancer patient and dealing with a lot of issues at this time. I've been here since 1961. My wife and I moved here when we got married. And I was here when Mayor Ted Bates was here. So I've seen a lot of mayors and heard a lot of mayors. And I have to say I'm happy with the results of the election and the people that Mayor Fouts endorsed. I've never known a mayor or a person in public office that responds like him. And I don't mean just during election time. He's always available, or his staff is always available, and they respond to your needs or your concerns. That impresses me. I felt I had to say this because it comes from the heart. I fully concur with this gentleman in the blue shirt said earlier, if the audience remembers. His many accomplishments are too many to, I don't have time and you don't have time to give me to mention them all, but you know what they are. I hope this constant conflict between council and mayor ceases in the coming years or coming months and years. I'm very happy living in Warren. I wouldn't have lived here 60 years if I wasn't. But I wanted to say that I think the mayor has done an excellent job. I wish he could have been on the ballot. I see you've seen to that didn't happen. And I'm sorry to see and hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina D.
It's always nice and warm in here, huh? Okay, so timing is always amazing here in Warren, isn't it? It's just, but it is what it is, and here we are. So there's a recreational ordinance being discussed, or at least sitting there to be discussed. This ordinance allows 18 medical licenses to be guaranteed recreational through the city being able to issue unlimited co-locating licenses, medical co-locating with recreational. So it's still tying into 18. But as that's in court, and, you know, I've never wanted you guys never to get out of court. I've always wanted you to deal with that. I'm actually not even going to discuss that one today. What I want to look at is the standalone licensing, right? Which I actually truly appreciate being there, because that is something we've asked for, expressed interest in, and a license that somebody who's not tied into medical will have a chance at getting. But I do feel like it's close, but not quite there. I feel like you're still possibly missing the heart of what that license is supposed to be, right? So let's look at what that license is. It's a recreational standalone sales license, right? It doesn't have the high requirements that medical does to pre-qualify. It's a business sales model, right? That does not need complicated growing skills. You don't need extraction skills. It's a sales model. You can come in and run a sales business with an attorney and some guidance. You can do it. It's an opportunity for people who have always been here to now have their shot at applying for one of these licenses. So how does the local ordinance that's here treat this licensing? And that's kind of my issue. If you look at the medical process, all 15 licenses applied at the same time under the same zoning requirements. Same application, everybody went in at the same time. The licenses that the community has a chance at, though, it gets staggered out in a two-phase process. 2 gets issued, then a possibility of 3 gets issued, and you know what? You have to be 1,000 square feet away from these other people now, and it's just, why is it so much more complicated now for the standalone licenses to apply? What I'm encouraging is an equal and fair process. And it's important because when you look at small businesses applying versus large businesses, let's look at one of the criteria, employee benefits. There is a difference when you have a small mom and pop shop offering a health insurance plan to its employees that the owner also has as well. The employee's children are covered by the same plan that the owner's children are covered by. You don't have a corporate business running in that offers this to their employees, that yes, people in corporate offices tend to have different plans. So that's why I'm encouraging that we're close with this standalone license, but I think you also need to take a look at that all 5 licenses should be able to be applied for at the same time, and it allows for, I'm almost 2 seconds, and this is why, like, again, I'm encouraging the corrections in this ordinance to allow for a standalone process that's done the right way, that's equal and fair to the people applying. Thank you.
Mark Abraham.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mark Abraham. You guys have seen me here a handful of times recently. I'm excited to be here tonight because I feel like, as many people have already said, we're on the eve of something. We're finally going to get this opportunity to settle something that's gone on for a very long time. My company's name is Venco Michigan. We're located at 24649 Mound Road, where we were the first license in this city, in Macomb County. We're growers and we're processors in this industry, the cannabis industry. Tonight's agenda includes a first reading, or a first opportunity for a reading for an adult use ordinance that would allow Warren to move forward with licensing the provisioning centers. Everybody knows, and everybody here knows more than I do, that we've waited a very long time for this. Litigation has caused us to be backed up, but now we're here. We're on the 1 foot line. So we're on the eve of the Supreme Court decision. I spoke to the clerk before they went to recess at the Supreme Court. They told me our case is one of the oldest cases that they have right now. They expect it to get settled very soon. So we're finally going to have that opportunity to move forward from the Supreme Court. I respect every member of the City Council, from Mr. Kabazinski all the way across to Ms. Rogencies and our attorney, of course, Mr. Schroeder. Your job is not easy. I come here a lot. I see, what goes on, and your job is not easy. But tonight, I'm going to simply ask what I've asked for the last 3 times you've seen my smiley little face. Tonight, I'm asking for the Warren City Council to move forward with this first reading of the adult use ordinance. I'm not saying that it's perfect. I don't expect so. I think that, I think there'll be opportunities for minor corrections if it's necessary. However, we need to get moving forward on it. Warren's a great place to work. I've worked here for 35 years, and we're all ready to get to work. All we're waiting for is for this ordinance to move forward. So I'm asking, for the last time, I'm hoping, please move forward on this ordinance, and thank you for the work you've done. Appreciate it.
Jerry Bell.
Good evening to all the residents here in the city of Warren. Good evening to you, Councilman Papandrea, you, Councilman Kabasinski, but with Councilman Watts, Councilman Lafferty, Councilwoman Moore, Councilwoman Angela Rogency. We're not going to worry about you, Pat Green, because you're history. But I just wanted to kind of reiterate on what I said in the very beginning when you all were first elected and you started screwing the residents around. I told you that you guys are going to be unemployed. Starting with you, Mr. Green, you're already gone. But I told you guys you were going to be unemployed. You barely even won going to the general election. But we're going to make sure that in the general election that you four lose. And we're going to make sure that you, Mr. Schroeder, are unemployed with this city. I see last week, or what was it, last week? I really got to you. You started laughing, making those little ugly faces you do. And that's good, because you're on your way out the door. Mr. Watts, you continue to speak about what the mayor isn't doing. But what have you done? You've did nothing but just ride around in your little red truck and make videos. Mr. Lafferty, you told us you was the vice president of Comerica Bank. I don't believe that to be true. I don't think you are. Okay? Ms. Moore, you are a very, very horrible councilwoman. I always wanted to say that to you. You're very horrible, very useless. Councilwoman Rogency, you just don't know what you want to do. You just can't make up your mind. You did some really, really horrible things. I talked to a resident. She was really upset with you. She was really upset with you. But I'll leave that part alone. But what I'm hoping for going forward after tonight is you all become unemployed, and I'm going to see to it. And to all the residents here in the city of Warren, do not vote for this gang of five. Do not vote for them, because they're not worthy. You see what they did to us in terms of our downtown, this whole marijuana thing ensuing our city. This is what these council members have done to us. So we don't need them up there. So just remember, when the general election comes in November, do not vote for any of these council members. Thank you.
Lori Harris.
Hi, Council. I don't have any songs for you. I wanted to commend Mr. Bell. If anybody knows about losing, it's Mr. Bell, so he should be able to help with that. I wanted to talk about the marijuana ordinance for the city of Warren. Mr. Papandrea would not let me know who wrote this ordinance, but I did go line by line through that, and I appreciate Christina's input. But I want to point out the things that I found that are significant, and if you're reading through it, you may not realize the impact it could have. I would say in many of the descriptions and sections, they took out state licensed, and substituted municipal license. I don't know what the reasoning for that is and what that would change. Criminal history, they changed it from, well, they're excluding expungement, pardoning, and overturned convictions. I understand there may be a reason for that, but that's a big change into our current ordinance. To say that, could Jerry Bell please stop talking? Thank you. Section 19.5-12 prohibits hosting temporary marijuana events in our current ordinance. The new ordinance states that it prohibits hosting temporary events without a valid license or a permit, which then could be twisted into giving permission. Section 19.
Mr. Bell, can you take your conversation in the back? It's
Section 19.5-15, 5E1, hours of operation. They've changed the hours of operation. The current ordinance is no operation or performance of home deliveries for provisioning centers and retail establishments between 8 p.m. and 8:30 a.m. The proposed ordinance changes that to do not operate between 11 p.m. and 8:30 a.m. That's a big difference. Did you say 1 minute?
yes.
Okay. Let's see. And I don't know why section 19.5-16 under marijuana businesses says added license applicant shall not, number 2, this is added, have a history of uncompleted site plans, ongoing or pending building code violations, or ongoing or pending property maintenance violations. I do think that the process of having 2 licenses, I don't want you to pass this right now. I don't think that it's accurate. I think we need to wait on the ruling. And I just don't trust that the changes that have been made in this will benefit the city at this point. I think that you guys have done a good job as council, and try to let the other negative, terrible, horrible comments
3 minutes.
off your shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you. Kabir?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for all the residents coming in attend today, as well after the election. Many of you guys know my name is Kabir Ahmed. I am very disappointed regarding agenda about marijuana. Since we have a November final election, we did the primary. I think my best suggestion to have the new council and new mayor should make the decision. I think its time is over. We should get ready for November, who we select. Thank you, each and everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you. Joel?
Joel Vanderlyn, longtime Warren resident. Glad to be back. I want to thank Mr. Bell for his comments. He is Warren's biggest loser. He had the lowest vote total of all the candidates, and he wonders why. Mr. Watts, you keep on driving your truck around, pointing out all the things that property maintenance is not doing. Mr. Lafferty, you keep on doing a fine job along with Mr. Green and Mrs. Moore. Ms. Rogancy, you shouldn't have to put up with such harassment from such a low son of a gentleman, a man who's not even a Warren resident. He sleeps in the back seat of a taxi in his son's driveway. Doesn't even count as a Warren resident. I'm here really officially on item 13A, this marijuana theme. I'm not for the marijuana at all. I can see for the marijuana, for the medical purposes, but not for the other purposes. It's funny that it's written by the same man that got us into the same legal BS that we're going through with the last council. Mr. Papandreou, I don't think you should even have the right to vote. I don't think you should even have the rights for a presentation on this matter after this whole lawsuit is because of you. You're an embarrassment to the city and to this council. Mr. Schroeder, I wish you would stand up more with your head tall and take on some of these idiots that attack you. I wish you'd tell the people that you've saved millions of dollars by sitting in that seat defending us against the BS that Mayor Fouts has dished out to all the citizens. I wish you would stand up and tell everyone that you're 10-0 against Jim Fouts and all his backwards, upside-down thinking and lawsuits that would have hurt the city and probably ruined the city worse than what it already is. Mr. Watts, the council has asked, what have you done? You've saved this city, along with the Demon Five or whatever childish name they want to call you, from destroying this place, from keeping us afloat, from giving us a damn hotel we don't need when all the other 8 north of 12 Mile are all going under. Thank you for doing a fine job, all of you, even Mr. Kabazinski. Ron, Lord have mercy on your soul. Have a blessed day.
Next item.
Next item is announcements. 10A, resolution honoring James Salikowski. Mr. Watts requested this.
Mr. Watts.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Mr. Watts.
So I have a resolution here for Deputy Chief James Salikowski. He was unable to attend tonight. He's actually enjoying his retirement playing golf in Chicago, so lucky guy. Whereas James Salikowski was hired into the City of Warren Fire Department on May 2nd, 1994, and whereas James Salikowski was promoted to the position of Sergeant April 17th, 2015, and whereas James Salikowski continued to advance his career and was promoted 1 year later to the position of Lieutenant on April 18th, 2016, whereas James Salikowski obtained the position of Captain on June 30th, 2019, and whereas James Salikowski was again promoted to the position of Deputy Fire Chief on May 4th, 2021, where he should continue his service to the residents for an additional 2 years, and whereas James Salikowski retired from the Warren Professional Firefighters after a long, successful career on July 16th, 2023, and now therefore let it be resolved, the Warren City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Warren, would like to thank James for his hard work and dedication in serving the community as a first responder. We wish James continued health, success in his future endeavors. Resolution declared adopted this 15th day of August 2023, signed by Patrick Green, Council President, Watts, myself, Vice President, Mindy Moore, Secretary, Jonathan Lafferty, Assistant Secretary, Eddie Kabazinski, Ron Papadrea, and Angela Rogancy. So congratulations to Jim. He's been a good friend for a good many years. I've seen him on many fire scenes, and he was one heck of a firefighter, so congratulations to him.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr.
Motion
President?
carried. Ms. Moore.
Couple things. This Thursday, August 24th, from 5 to 8:45 at Leeson's, CERT is having a fundraiser, so stop in there. You not only help CERT, but you help a Warren business. Number two, another reminder that Thursday, August 24th, the Lead Awareness Fair is taking place at Owen Jacks from 2 to 6:30. And I believe Mr. Schroeder has an update on an item that he's going to speak to.
The hotel motel
Right.
ordinance situation we just heard about. Mr. Vincent's here. I did receive his correspondence this week, and it was said here tonight, and it was said in the correspondence that somehow I said this ordinance isn't needed. I actually went back to last week's meeting and watched every word I said and every word this council said. Nobody said the ordinance wasn't needed. The problem is the council has either been lied to or misinformed about the current state of the law. The council was sent a letter from the city attorney's office that says The administration wants to inspect hotels and motels. We want to create a new group of inspectors, to inspect hotels and motels. Then a separate public announcement was made. Currently, our existing ordinance do not allow inspection of these properties. And I recalled that there is an entire chapter in the Code of Ordinances for the inspection of hotels and motels. And the question is there overlap between these two ordinances, and is the current ordinance being enforced the way it's written? And based on that, do you need a new ordinance or not? Or do you have to focus on the existing ordinance and make sure that's working? And you start digging a little bit deeper, and I received this letter from Mr. Vinson that said, well, we're not allowed to inspect the individual rooms at hotels and motels. So I went to the Chapter 17 ordinance that exists, and it allows an inspection for the State Housing Code and any City of Warren code. And you go into Chapter 18, which is where the fees are, and the ordinance says that there's a $10 per room inspection fee for hotels and motels, an additional $5 room inspection fee for fire inspections. So there's already something on the books that says the administration could go in and inspect these rooms. There's even a set fee. Maybe it's a little low, I don't know, but there's a $10 per room for building inspection and $5 per room for fire inspection. It's in the code. So why are we creating a new separate ordinance in another section of the code if this is already here? And the question council asked was, the council wanted samples of the types of inspections that are taking place at these hotels and motels. Are these drive-by inspections where someone's checking a box? Are they even taking place? Are they paying the $10 per room fee? The council just wants to investigate before you go and pass a new law to solve a problem. We're being told that there's bed bugs, there's human trafficking, and all kinds of problems in these hotels and motels. The city's getting complaints, and you want to be able to address that. But if you're just going to take the same language that's in Chapter 17 and repeat it in Chapter 28, wash, rinse, and repeat, and do the same thing over and expect a different result, I think you want to figure out what's going on here. So the question is, what type of inspections are these? Give the council samples of these inspections. How much are they charging? How often are they coming in and inspecting? And why aren't you amending the hotel motel ordinance instead of the rental dwelling ordinance? And why didn't you let us know that this ordinance was already on the books when you're proposing this separate ordinance? So it's just a matter of transparency and making sure council has all the facts before it passes a new law. So I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't say it wasn't needed at all. I said there needs to be an investigation to see if there's overlap and why we're not addressing why this isn't working. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional announcements?
Mr. President.
Mr. Kaczynski, then Mr. Watts.
Mr. Watts,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Somebody go.
Okay.
I'll go.
I'm going to respond to somebody who likes to get up and try to trash people. But to Mr. Jerry Bell, I've done more by accident in this city in my lifetime than you've done ever. I don't think I've ever seen you volunteer. It's my time, sir. I didn't talk during yours.
Don't hang out with me, so it's not fair for you to say that.
Mr. President.
Mr. Bell?
But he shouldn't direct his
Mr. Bell?
comments at me.
Sit down, please.
I am sitting down.
Sit back.
I've been helping this fire department since the mid-'70s. I've never seen you serve coffee to firefighters in below zero weather. I've never seen you serve beverages to them in the summertime when it's hot. I've never seen you bring them food to large fire scenes. I've done a lot for the police, I've done a lot for the fire service, and I'll continue to do it whether I'm on this council or not. I volunteered a lot in this community, and I am not going to take your bull. I am sick of it.
I gave it, so you're going to take it.
You think you're funny? That's okay. But I'm not going to take it. Lastly,
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Watts.
since I got on council, I have a list here.
Yeah.
This is how this council has been treated. Here's the names that we've been called. We're an illegal council. Show us where we're illegal. We're a dysfunctional council. Show us where we're dysfunctional. We're following the charter, and we filed lawsuits, and we won. 1-800-JEFF wins. He gets it done. Accidental council. There's nothing accidental here. It was on purpose. The citizens voted, and they're proud of what we've done. no experience. Jim Founts didn't have any experience when he got on the council either. He didn't have no experience to be mayor. Reign of political terror. Well, let me tell you what reign of political terror is. It's sitting over on the second floor of City Hall, because I'm tired of his crap too. Dark money. Guess who's funded by dark money? Guess who funded all those campaigns for the Super 7 or Stupid 7? It was all dark money packed from Cecil St. Pierre and Gus Ganem. Controlled by Plunkett Cooney. Well, Plunkett Cooney's never controlled me, and my votes can reflect that. We've been called a Gang of Four, and then we got a new member, so we've been called Gang of Five. We're called bombastic frauds. We were denied our swearing-in ceremony when we were elected to this council. That was never happened in the history of this city, and that beat my family out of a proud moment. I've done my job as council, and residents call every day and tell us to keep fighting and keep fighting. We're going to get through this, and we are going to get through it, because this man is a political terror, and he's going to get taken out of office, and we're going to have a new council up here that's going to get things done, and we're going to be part of it. Thank you.
Mr. Kaczynski.
In November. You just sit tight.
Police won't do anything about it. They've been ordered not to do anything. He's disrupting the meeting.
Can I speak?
Disrupting the meeting, he's been removed. If the
But it was
police officer
directed at me.
refuses,
You're not supposed to direct
refuses to
anything
remove
at
him,
the,
that officer is not performing
Mr.
his
Kaczynski,
job.
go ahead.
Can't
His
do that.
job duties state
Pres-
that he is to maintain control of this room.
He's given direct orders not to do anything.
And that person that gave that order, an illegal
Mr.
order.
Mr. Vanderlinden?
Joel, don't get yourself in trouble for us.
Mr. Kaczynski, go ahead.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
He's a stooge.
Mr. President, I wanted to bring attention.
It ain't worked yet.
Mr. Kaczynski, go ahead.
I wanted to bring attention, an item having to do with the campaign signs that were around the city here. There was a Supreme Court ruling done in 2015. It was called Reed versus the Town of Gilbert. And I'm sure Mr. Schroeder can probably look this up. He probably knows about it, right? No, you don't know? Okay. So anyways, this had to do with political election signs and how they are not to be treated as other signs that you might see for sale signs, for rent signs, so on and so forth. That political speech in any way, shape, or form is ultimately protected. And sign ordinances do not apply to any political speech whatsoever. None. There is a ordinance for time, place, and manner, and that has to do with where you're locating them, where they're at, and how long they're going to be there. But it has nothing to do with the content. It has nothing to do with if it's on private property or if you purchase that sign and it's on private property. If it's on public property, it does have something to do with it. But as long as you have your political speech on privately owned property, this justice ruling, where Justice Alito and Justice Thomas ruled that free political speech is your right. You can stand on a soapbox anywhere and say whatever the hell you want to do about our political system, our judicial system, and nobody can say anything about it whatsoever. Well, this city here has engaged in the conduct of eliminating the political speech. And they have taken action to remove signs that have to do with political speech. And that's wrong. And it's unjust and it's illegal. And for me to be told that the city doesn't have to comply with a Supreme Court ruling with federal law is absolutely ridiculous. Has anybody read Article 6 of our Constitution? It says the federal law, Supreme Court, that's the supreme law of the land. I know I read it. I'm sure attorneys have read it. Have any of us read it that says Article 6 is the supreme law of the land, federal law, our Constitution? And when our Supreme Court makes a ruling, that is the supreme law of the land. And they did so in this one case called Reed versus the Town of Gilbert. And this was taken up by a law firm called Foster, Swift, Collins, and Smith PC attorneys. And it has to deal with Michigan elections. And this has been prevalent from this election, and it was prevalent in the previous election for council. The willful removing of political signs, property of that candidate on privately owned property. I seen it myself. Supporters have seen it. And it's wrong. It's not your sign. It does not belong to you. If you disagree with the message, fine, disagree with it. Look at the other way. If you don't like what's being said on a certain station, don't listen to it. Don't watch it. I want us all to be aware of this ruling and be aware that our ordinances that go towards the stifling of free political speech in this city are completely illegal. They're unlawful, and they should not be on the books, and they should be repealed immediately to comply with the Supreme Court ruling that was done in 2015. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. Always like to announce and remind everyone of family events. The birthday bash is this weekend in front of City Hall. Starts August 24th, that's this Thursday, and continues throughout the weekend. Everyone is invited to enjoy the festivities. It's always been a favorite, especially when my children were younger, with the carnivals and the fireworks. There are going to be a number of food trucks. We're going to be enjoying several local businesses, and I encourage everyone to please come out and support them. The Detroit Wing Company and Beyond Juice, right there on Mound Road. Estia, another great entry from 12 Mile. Big Boy, the Fun Food Express, and the Frozen Spoon, and Lindsay Concessions. There'll be several more. So please make time to come out and enjoy some of the live music. The American Polish Century Club will be having a parade from Cousino High School down to City Hall. And so there are lots of events taking place this weekend, so do bring your family out and support that. I have been following the news about our brothers and sisters in Hawaii, and it is absolutely heartbreaking to see the devastation in such a beautiful place. And so I'm encouraging everyone to please keep them in your prayers, and the loss and devastation is insurmountable. Donations to the Red Cross, probably the safest way to make an impact there if you so desire personally. And I'd like to offer a moment of silence on behalf of Warren.
Moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional announcements? Next item.
Next item is 12A, proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 41, Section 41.75 and 41.102 to establish limits for perfluorooctane, sulfonic acid, PFOS, as required by the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Eagle. First reading. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Mr. Kabzinski, what's your point of order?
I would like to ask Madam Secretary if she can use that P word in a sentence so I can better understand what it means.
Perfluorooctane sulfonic? No.
And if you can spell it.
It's in front of me.
I just feel it'd be beneficial to the residents to know exactly what it is.
I think you're probably
used in a
right.
sentence. I'm joking.
Perfluorooctane sulfonic acid needs to be removed from our system.
Any additional? I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kabzinski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 13A, Councilmember Ron Papandrea, discussion in re consideration and adoption of a resolution to establish recreational marijuana in the city of Warren.
So moved with discussion.
Support Papandrea.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Papandrea. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. I have a number of questions that I'd like to ask through our attorney. I'm sure you've done a careful reading of this ordinance. Please advise us as to if you have concerns with it. I have a number of them that we may share, but I'd like to ask for your input on this before we have a discussion.
The biggest concern I have is what impact this would have on the case before the Supreme Court. To that end, I saw this on the agenda from Mr. Papandrea and talked to, today, it took me a minute, I got a hold of Andrea Pike. She's the city's attorney representing the city in the Pine Brook case before the Supreme Court. We did hear a report here tonight that the Supreme Court might be taking this up soon, or hearing what they're going to do. So I spoke with her at length today. I did provide her a copy of it. We did have some trouble getting sort of like a red line version of that, which we did today. We had a good Samaritan out there who knows how to use Microsoft Word and all the tools. So we have a red line version of that. And what that means is what Mr. Papandrea gave us was an ordinance that was the end result of what would happen if council were to adopt the ordinance. But what we didn't have was the edits to show what we're changing. I did see something sitting here tonight. Somebody attempted to put together the...
That was from Mrs. Harris.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because that probably did take a lot of time, Ms. Harris. I was trying to go through myself and figure out what this is. And I was talking to Mr. Papandrea just before the meeting. For council to vote on this properly, you need to have that, we call it red line version, but the edited version of the ordinance. So everybody knows what you're voting on. What are you editing? What are you changing? What are you taking out? For example, Ms. Harris's version here talks about adding secure all windows with properly installed commercial grade window locks and bullet resistant glass with minimum UL level 3. Okay, well, that's great, but what are we changing specifically? And let's look at this all together. So I did get a red line version late this evening. So, and then talking to Councilman Lafferty as well, I mean, I agree that there's some concerns. We have to have this in the proper format. So I think that's what I've told everybody. This needs to be in a proper format before you adopt it on a first reading. Ms. Pike has a lot of input on this. And I think she's willing to write a memo to council. She's willing to get that done. I mean, I don't know her schedule, but she's willing to get this done in a timely fashion. And so it would be good to get her input, because if you vote on this and you're not informed of what the impact could be on the Supreme Court case, I think that could be troublesome. But I mean, I think there's a path to get this done if this is what the council wants. But I think council needs to be fully informed, the public needs to be fully informed, especially with these edits, because I was a little lost reading this, what was truly being edited. So that's my initial input on it. I also think there was a couple other concerns I had discussed with some council members. Getting Ms. Pike's input was number one. Getting a properly formatted ordinance to vote on were definitely the issues. And then there was the concern about some of the facilities that these applications were done in 2019. I think it was before this council was even in office. These applications were submitted, and there were a number of facilities where they had a purchase agreement, a deed or a lease for the property, and we've heard through the grapevine that some of these people have lost their purchase agreement or deed or lease on the property, and they no longer have site control. So I think that was a concern, to make sure that anyone who's benefiting from this does have site control. So those are the three issues of concern that I heard in talking amongst the council members.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
You still have the floor.
So I do have several questions. We do have some commonalities there. One with and I prepared this a little bit so that I was very clear. With the passage of 4 years since the previous council initiated and plunged the city into a lawsuit, I have questions regarding the original 15 applications selected, their site status, and overall state of operations. 4 years is a long time to wait, especially with the courts, and I believe it is imperative for this council to understand the current state of the original applicants. This is an important factor to understand prior to considering or offering a revised ordinance that may or may not affect these applicants. We must understand that first. 2, if the date of the document is accurate, we must fully understand and ensure the alignment of this ordinance with present state law. 3, I have additional questions relative to the current court case, as Mr. Schroeder indicated, by the Michigan State Supreme Court and how it may impact or be impacted by the pending litigation. Number 4, lacking the proper format. You also noted that. This might be a minor point, but it's very relevant if you compare this format to the ordinances previously passed by this council and sent over to the attorney's office, and then still awaiting publishing by the city clerk. While we're well overdue for an ordinance regarding adult use, those ordinances are well overdue for being published. So if you're going to say that those ordinances didn't follow the format, then this ordinance must also follow the format. And if, you know, your loyalties are anything of an indication with the city attorney or the administration, then I would expect them to follow suit with this ordinance as well. I'll yield there if there are other
Mr. President,
Papandrea.
I can clarify one of Mr. Lafferty's points. There was a marijuana committee of 5 people. I was one of the 5, and people are attributing to me more authority than I had. I was one of 5 votes, and I was off. Let me put it this way. I was in the minority with the marijuana committee as much as I've been in the minority with this council. So, you know, the people that say I control that thing are just barking up the wrong tree. But I can tell you, we awarded, and it had to be approved by the previous council, we awarded 15 licenses. That meant 50 were denied. So there were 65 applicants, 15 got licenses. Naturally, they were very happy. But the 50 that did not get licenses, they were very, very unhappy, and they've managed to tie this thing up in court ever since then. So the issue that Judge Marlingo originally ruled that our license were not valid, and the issue was, did we violate the Open Meetings Act? Not whether our process was unfair or whether our process was incomplete. Did we violate the Open Meetings Act? Now,
Nope. There you go.
are we all right? Okay, thank you. All right. At the time, the answer we got was we did not violate the Open Meetings Act, but Judge Marlinga felt otherwise. He ruled that we did violate the Open Meetings Act. So the 15 appealed to the Court of Appeals. It took a long time, and the Court of Appeals ruled in the city's favor. We did not violate the Open Meetings Act. Naturally, the 50 are unhappy with that, so they went to the Michigan Supreme Court, and the Michigan Supreme Court is going to say whether or not they're even going to take the case, because it's voluntary on their part. They're not required to take the case, but they've been sitting on it for a long time. Meanwhile, the 15 people that have, some of them have been able to go ahead, have invested, they've invested millions of dollars in the city. And the city has lost millions of dollars of revenue that if they were operating, they'd be required to give to the city. So it's been a lose-lose situation for the city. It's been a lose situation for the majority of them. And meanwhile, the law and the times have passed us by. Medical marijuana is no longer the issue. We have all kinds of recreational marijuana now all around us, including Detroit. So it really doesn't matter how the Supreme Court rules, in the sense that if their medical marijuana licenses are good, they still go out of business because they can't compete with the recreational marijuana. Again, they'll lose millions of dollars. The city loses millions of dollars of tax revenue and more millions of dollars in other revenue they're required to give to the city. So that's why I've brought this resolution forward, is because the people that have invested in this city are losing millions, and it's not correct. The people voted to approve it years ago, and now all around us, they have recreational. So what I would like to ask Jeff is, how can we improve Mr. Lafferty's resolution to make it, can we put in there to ship it to Andrea Pike, or how would you sum it up and see if Mr. Lafferty agrees with you? How would you sum it up?
Again, I think Ms. Pike needs to weigh in on this. She's the one defending the city on this, and I would consult her on what impact this could have, and have her write an opinion and come back in closed session and come out and see what decision council makes.
Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Lafferty?
I have several items that I'm going to bring up, but I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to speak.
Okay, well, you've heard.
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts?
Through the chair to Mr. Papandrea, can you tell me who wrote this document?
Numerous lawyers. Numerous lawyers.
Okay.
Why does it matter? Can you read it and see if you agree with it or not?
I did read it, that's why.
Or is that, is that too big a issue with you, I mean, it doesn't involve grass, right? I mean, real grass, the green stuff, Doesn't involve grass cutting, so your interest is not piqued, is it?
I asked you a simple question, and you gave me an answer. I didn't need all your rhetoric, because we know what your rhetoric is. That's why we're in 63
We know what
lawsuits
your
right
rhetoric is.
We're in 63
Cut the grass, cut the grass.
Okay, Ron.
Okay. Mr. President.
I'm not done yet, Mr. President.
And I have,
So we have multiple lawsuits going. To throw this in after...
Don't have multiple lawsuits going. We have an issue in front of the Supreme Court of Michigan, whether or not they're going to take the case.
Point of order, Mr. President.
You know the floor.
Cut the grass, right, cut the grass, cut the grass. How can we have a downtown, we can't even cut the grass?
motion for recess.
How can we have a downtown, we can't even cut the grass? That's what you told me, right?
We're in recess. Thanks, Ron.
No problem.
We'll deal with this.
Good job, Ron.
What an ad.
God bless you, Ron. Make sure there ain't no fertilizer around.
Thought you guys were taking a break.
Chicken. That one got lit on.
For anybody who does sing and would like to come join the choir, please do look us up, motorcitychorale.com. Just look it up there. I heard the gentleman over here, your beautiful voice.
That one.
Let's go. Mr. Lafferty? You saw the floor?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
since I didn't
Bob.
get to finish and I was overrun, I just, I find it interesting that the document is like all over the place. And why would we do this before we get a settlement? Because it's only going to bring on more suits. So I'm done.
All right.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
No, it's,
Mr. Lafferty?
I'm going to make a motion to table to
Support.
certain,
Motion by
Support.
Lafferty, support by,
to date
Moore.
certain, October 10, 2023, with the following items to be handled in the meantime. Number one, the city attorney's office to prepare an ordinance in the proper format, including a cover letter indicating reading and concurrence by the city attorney, mayor, building department, and public service for consideration by council. Number two, Andrea Pike's opinion as the attorney for the city of Warren in the Pine Brook consolidated case pending before the Michigan State Supreme Court to provide a review of ordinance to council for any possible impact on pending litigation or risk of new litigation. Number three, proof from all medical marijuana license holders currently in litigation to demonstrate they still retain site control through a deed, purchase agreement, or lease per application submitted in early 2019. Number four, once all of these items are prepared, requesting Council Secretary Moore to convene a committee of the whole and bring a revised, well-prepared ordinance that is worthy of this council's consideration for a first reading.
okay, motion by Lafferty, support by Moore. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes, to table.
Ms. Moore?
yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes to table.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes, table.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
And Green votes yes. Items tabled 6-1. Next item,
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, we have one more item.
13B, federal lawsuit update.
Sorry.
Ms. Moore?
Yeah, 13B, update on the lawsuit.
Mr. Schroeder?
Yes, so today, this is the federal lawsuit where the mayor has sued the city council, the county, the city clerk, and the city elections commission. And today was the deadline for briefs on the city council's motion to dismiss the case, also on the county of Macomb's motion to dismiss the case. And we filed our reply brief today, and so did the county. The mayor's attorney filed a brief in opposition to dismissing this case. And the real big issue here is the mayor knew on April 21st that he was not going to be on the ballot from the published Court of Appeals ruling. It waited until the week before the election to file a federal case to try to essentially stop the election or reverse the election. At this point, they want to throw out the primary election from last week or 2 weeks ago and have a new primary election, in addition to asking for $1 million in damages because the mayor has emotional damages from being removed from the ballot and not being able to run again. It says $1 million right on the demand in the federal court system. So the big issue is the delay. And the federal court system does not like to interfere in local elections. And if somebody, even if they have rights, they can't sit on their rights and wait as long as the mayor did. And the reason, we just found this out, is the mayor's attorney said that he shopped this case to Miller Canfield. They wouldn't take it. He shopped it to Foster Swift, Mr. Kaczynski's favorite firm in Michigan, that did the First Amendment, well, one of your favorite cases, favorite firms. Foster Swift that you mentioned earlier that did a superb job on that Supreme Court case that I just brushed up on. And so they declined the case. He shopped it to Butzel Long, one of the biggest firms in Michigan. They declined the case. And then finally he ran into the current attorney who got it in mid-July, and he took 2 weeks to research it and came back and told the mayor, I think you have a case. Miller Canfield, Foster Swift, Butzel Long, everybody, they're wrong, you have a case. But by then it was right before the election. So in reality, this is really, I think it's really an abuse of the court system, frankly, I'll be honest, to file this type of case right before an election. We're certainly hoping this case gets dismissed. We will keep the council apprised. We do not know if the judge is going to have a hearing on the motion to dismiss. We'll probably find that out in the next couple days. But as it stands now, the motion's filed. It's in the judge's capable hands in the federal court, and we'll keep you updated as we move forward.
Thank you. Next item.
Motion to receive and file. Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Can you have discussion on that or
You
not?
want to have discussion?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
As to the mayor's assertion about the primary election, I've already stated before, I believe the primary election, at least for the 5th district, should be thrown out in its entirety due to the ineligible and unqualified candidates that were on the ballot. As far as the rest of the lawsuit is concerned, I don't concur, but as far as what occurred in the 5th district election, I do concur that the city clerk did not do her job in this position, and also the Warren Election Commission as a result of Mrs. Buffa not doing her job in this election. So I partially concur with it, but majority I don't. But I do believe that not a new election, because that would be too costly to the city, but what should have been done is there should have been an adherence to the charter by the clerk, by the election commission, and there wasn't. If there had been, I don't think we would have had the results that ended up in this election the way they did, and we would have not had ineligible and unqualified candidates on the ballot.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Motion to receive and file.
President, I'll jump on it.
Okay, go ahead.
I've had a lot of phone calls since the election, and there's a lot of questions to be solved. And I think it pertains a lot around this case. I'll probably add something in next agenda to discuss some of this, because we need to make the people feel comfortable about what's going on. So I don't think it was just Mr. Kabasinski's case. I researched a lot of candidates, and a lot of candidates did not qualify under the city charter. Not a lot, but a few of the candidates didn't qualify to be on the ballot. And we need to take care of that problem, so thank you.
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Motion to adjourn.
Support Lafferty.
All in favor?